What's going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we've got some more training camp updates for you. As training camp rolls along and we get closer to the season, some players are starting to impress. Some players are, their performance is a little bit left to be desired, and we continue to have some injuries build up. Now, I will say I'm not nearly as concerned about injuries this year as I have been in the past. This actually seems like a pretty decent year for injuries so far. In the past couple of years, it seems like we're losing everybody left and right. But we do have another top-tier running back that people were looking forward to drafting this season that could end up missing some time. Right now, just deemed precautionary, but Kenyan Drake has been seen in a walking boot. Now, it does sound like, again, precautionary at this point, but Kingsbury didn't give us too much information, not really telling us what the issue is. He says he's dealing with some soreness right now, and he also didn't just come out and say, oh yeah, he's going to be ready for week 1, no worries. There wasn't a whole lot, and that's the thing that kind of concerned me with Miles Sanders as well, is there's just not a whole lot of information. Miles Sanders is week to week with a lower body injury. Well, that doesn't tell us a whole lot. Well, Kenyan Drake shows up out of nowhere in a walking boot today, and we're just being told it's precautionary. We're not being told what the issue is either. Now, did talk to Dr. Ethan Turner, got his take on it a little bit. He doesn't seem overly concerned right now. He is monitoring it and keeping an eye on it, but it's not anything that he's absolutely avoiding Kenyan Drake for. Now, for me, if I can maybe let him slip a little bit, now that could end up happening. Maybe if you've got like one of those mid-round picks where all of those running backs, you get your running back one, but then the rest of them disappear really before it gets back to you. Kenyan Drake could slip a little bit now with this and get back to you maybe in that mid-second, late second. That is an area that I would like to get him. Now with me, I like Kenyan Drake. I've had him right around that running back, anywhere between really running back 11 and running back 14 this year. It's kind of fluctuated with the news and things like that. For me, there's been a concern with offensive line issues. There's been a concern with them having to pass a lot. We've heard over the last few days that Chase Edmonds is getting more and more work, and Cliff Kingsbury really thinks that he can be a reliable option in this offense. So with all that being said, Kenyan Drake is still kind of going at the back end tier 2 running backs for me. So like Eckler, Sanders, all those guys. And at this point too, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and bump CEH over Kenyan Drake as well. So I'm going to end up moving Kenyan Drake back a couple of spots. And at this point, hopefully he gets out of the walking boot. Everything is fine. But again, kind of reacting to this right now. That's how I'll be adjusting my rankings going forward. So Kenyan Drake, again, if you can get him like in that mid running back 2 or that mid round 2, late round 2 area, that's still kind of fine for me. Not really using a late first round pick on him, and would rather get guys like Eckler, Mixon, Jacobs, and at this point, like I said, CEH. I will go with CEH over Kenyan Drake as of right now, but that could end up changing. That could end up changing when we find out what's wrong with Kenyan Drake and when he could end up being back. So just keep an eye on that. And of course, we'll keep you updated here on the Fantasy Headliners. Now moving over to Daryl Henderson, another guy, a rookie last year that just didn't really end up doing what a lot of fantasy owners thought he was going to, was kind of in a position to take over those lead duty responsibilities this year. Yeah, they drafted Cam Akers, and Cam Akers is a superior talent to Daryl Henderson. But Daryl Henderson being there for a year already, and again, this weird offseason where rookies just aren't getting the normal work that they would in the past, Daryl Henderson seemed pretty set up to go to move forward as kind of being that number one, with Cam Akers getting a lot of the number 2 work and maybe, like a 60-40 type split. Henderson's been having a really good training camp as well. But now he's dealing with a hamstring injury, and this could end up lingering into the season. So we've been told at this point with Daryl Henderson, this is something that's going to keep him sidelined for a while. And hamstrings, again, if you try to come back too quickly, they can reoccur really easy. If you don't take care of yourself, it's something that could end up lingering through the entire season. So for me, Cam Akers is going to end up getting a bump, and I'm going to talk more about Cam Akers on my Tough Draft Day Decisions video that's coming out this week. If you're watching this today on Monday, it's going to be coming out tomorrow on Tuesday. But I'm going to be talking about those mid-round running backs on my tough Draft Day Decisions. Cam Akers is going to come up in that. So Daryl Henderson, unfortunately, dealing with that hamstring injury that's going to affect his playing time and give Cam Akers an opportunity to take that backfield and run with it. Mike Williams, a guy that I listed as one of my deep sleepers for this year, a guy that I wanted you to all invest in later on. this is going to hurt a little bit. He is week to week with an arm injury. He came down awkward on the arm, but at this point, we've been told the collarbone is okay. So part of the concern to begin with was that he broke his collarbone, but the collarbone is intact. There's no issues there, but Mike Williams with that arm is going to be week to week. Now, Mike Williams, having that arm 100% healthy, that's kind of a big deal. You want that arm to be healthy because he's a guy that really high points the ball, that can win those 50-50 balls. If he's not able to get both of those arms stretched out, if he's not able to go up over the top of cornerbacks, that's going to affect some of his deep playability this year. So this is kind of a big hit. It's really unfortunate to see this. With Mike Williams, hopefully he ends up at least getting back to a point where, maybe at the beginning of the season, weeks 3, week 4, he's finally kind of back to 100%. But this is something to definitely monitor. Because he was such a late round draft pick at this point, it's not really a concern for me to basically to just bypass him. Now, you don't want to overdraft him, though, so you want to make sure that you're getting him at a good value still. But if you can do that, I'm still not opposed to you taking Mike Williams a little bit later on in your draft. The one thing, too, to keep in mind, this could boost some volume towards Keenan Allen as well, a guy that's really being hated on this offseason. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their backfield right now, nobody is really separating themselves. Now, the one thing that we had heard over the first couple of weeks of training camp, or the last couple of weeks of training camp, is that Ronald Jones was actually having a pretty good camp. It looked like he had improved in his pass blocking. He was looking good in his runs and finding holes, and he was really performing well to begin training camp. And then the other day, a video comes out of Ronald Jones dropping some passes. Well, that sparked some issues. You can see Tom Brady in the background of one of the videos kind of roll his eyes and kind of walk away, and did look like he might have been a little bit frustrated. But then, the next day, today, Ronald Jones bounces back and he's fine. The beat reporters from there said he caught several passes. He looked really good. That those issues in practice yesterday didn't seem to affect him. That it might have been a one-off thing. The real big concern, though, is that Keyshawn Vaughn has yet to do anything to impress anybody, and that's kind of been a consensus from the Buccaneers training facility. None of the beat writers have seen anything from Vaughn that leads them to believe he's going to be a guy that's going to make any kind of an impact anytime soon. We already know they brought in McCoy, right? So does McCoy still see some time over Vaughn? At this point, because no one is really separated, this is still Ronald Jones' backfield. So again, yes, we have the hashtag here, say no to Rojo. I get it. But because he's going in like the 7th round right now, let's just say for some reason, Ronald Jones ends up hitting this season and is a running back 2. You just drafted a running back 2 in the 7th round. It doesn't get much better than that for return on value. So just continue to keep an eye on him. If you really don't like him, I get it. You don't have to worry about it. But if you're okay with taking a chance in those later rounds on a guy that could end up hitting, he's a guy you still want to keep an eye on, because to me right now, he's still the guy that will be the lead back come week 1. AJ Green, a guy that we were really hoping would bounce back this season, just not looking good right now. He still has not returned to practice. That hamstring is still bothering him a little bit. And today he worked out alone on the rehab field. So he's not really doing anything other than just working out on his own right now. Until we see him back fully padded and on the field, I'm skipping on AJ Green. Too many injuries for me. Too much history over the last couple of years that shows that he could be breaking down somewhat. And then now early in training camp, dealing with a hamstring injury. If he tries to force himself back too quickly, like I said a few minutes ago, that could linger throughout the season. And they have so many weapons there right now. Yeah, they've been dealing with some issues. Obviously, we know John Ross missed some time because he went to go be with his family while they were dealing with COVID. He's come back. They've actually been having him run with the ones. He's been looking pretty decent. T. Higgins has been dealing with a little bit of an issue as well. He's a little bit sore right now. He's getting himself right. Auden Tate is a guy that over the last several days has really been playing very, very well. Mixon, they've been using him in the passing game in training camp so far. So right now with AJ Green, they might say, we don't need to rush him back. We need you fully healthy. Maybe give him a few weeks. Maybe he's not really ready to go week 1. And if that's the case, they say, we're just going to go ahead and run with everybody else because they have more than enough depth that if they chose to sat AJ Green, they would be just fine with it. So right now for me, I'm skipping on him in my drafts until we find out more information. But staying with Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's tearing it up right now. If you read the reports coming out of Bengals camp, Joe Burrow looks like a veteran quarterback. Now, granted, the Cincinnati Bengals defense isn't the best defense, but he's highly efficient. He's been completing 60-70% of his passes, maybe more in some of these drills. He's moving the ball down the field. He's making really good throws. He's throwing touchdown passes. Even in the hurry-up drills that they're doing, he's commanding the offense. He looks like he's comfortable. Joe Burrow right now is showing he's the real deal, and that's a huge, huge thing for the Cincinnati Bengals to take a step forward with that offense this season, and a bigger deal for my boy Joe Mixon, who I absolutely love this year. If Joe Burrow is the guy a lot of us think he's going to be, then Joe Mixon could still just end up feasting like crazy this season. From the Detroit Lions, a name you may not have heard before, Quintez Cephus, okay? If you haven't heard of him before, this is a guy, wide receiver, who is showing some athleticism with the ones right now. He's getting some run with the ones, and he's definitely a guy that could end up running out of the slot at some point this season. It could end up happening earlier than what we anticipated. Danny Amendola was the guy that we really thought would really control that slot presence there, but Quintez could end up coming in and taking that away from him. He could end up being highly efficient. He's a guy that could make some big plays out of the slot. He's having absolutely no trouble getting open against the Detroit defense from what we hear right now. So for those of you in deeper leagues or for those of you that are taking shots later on at players, this is definitely a guy that you want to have on your radar and keep an eye on him, because he could end up helping you in maybe some PPR leagues, or if you have like a league that does like big play points and things like that, he can end up helping you out with that as well. Moving over to a guy that really kind of kept the Devontae Parker breakout from happening until midseason last year, and that was Preston Williams. Preston Williams on his way back, and he's looking healthy. All reports indicate right now the explosiveness is coming back. He's looking like his former self last year, and he could be really close to 100% already. If that's the case, I'm not really bumping Devontae Parker one way or another because they've lost so many weapons in Miami so far from people opting out. Devontae Parker, I'm still going to roll with, is a wide receiver 2. I did say at one point he could have some wide receiver 1 upside because if Preston Williams comes back and he's not entirely healthy, that's going to still push a lot of targets over to Devontae Parker. But if Preston Williams comes back and he's healthy and ready to go, then that upside, again, kind of disappears for me, and Devontae Parker becomes a guy that's more of like a low-end wide receiver 2. That's kind of his ceiling, and his floor is in that same area. So he can end up being a safe player, but not really a guy that can end up helping you out in a week where you might need big points from him, because Preston Williams is looking good. And if you've seen the splits that we've talked about, Preston Williams balled out last year before getting hurt. He really took a lot of volume away from Parker, and it wasn't until Williams got hurt that Parker really became the weapon that he was to end the season. In New England, Damien Harris, he's been looking really good in practice. We've talked about him a little bit. James White is still my number 1 guy there. I'm still rolling with James White. I'm still trying to take him early and often. With Damien Harris, though, take a late round shot at Damien Harris. This could end up working out really well for you. Right now, he looks like the best all-around running back. Now, they have been using him in the run game, in the pass game. They've been using him as a blocker. They've been doing all these things with him, and right now he's holding up to the bill. This is a guy that they spent a 3rd-round pick on last year. They liked him, but he didn't do a whole lot. But don't forget, kind of like James White, when they drafted James White didn't do anything in his rookie season. It was until a sophomore year that they started to build him up a little bit more. Maybe we see the same thing from Damien Harris. He doesn't do anything his rookie year, and then his sophomore season, he kind of takes a step forward, and then he becomes a guy down the road that's really kind of that running back 1 for them in that offense. So keep an eye on that. Late rounds in your drafts, take a shot at him, put him on your team. Worst case scenario, if he's not doing a whole lot, because you spent such a late round pick on him, you can drop him and use that spot on somebody on the waiver wire later on in the season. One more guy to talk about right now, Paris Campbell from the Indianapolis Colts. He looks to be fully healthy, and a lot of the beat reporters said last year we didn't really get to see the explosiveness that we would have liked from Paris Campbell, because with because he got injured so early last offseason that he didn't really get a chance to run. He didn't get really a chance to show us all those weapons and tools that he has. But now he is showing off. He's showing some game-changing speed in practice. He's blowing by defenders. Guys are having trouble keeping up with him. This is definitely a guy that could end up being a big time, a big play wide receiver for them. And when you've got a guy like T.Y. Hilton there, Jack Doyle, you've got guys all over the place, right? Who's going to step up and be the guy for Phillip Rivers? Paris Campbell, he's, again, explosive. So he doesn't even necessarily need to win deep. He's a guy that could win in the slot. He's got some explosive moves. He could grab the ball and really take it for a large gain off a slant and different things like that. So don't overlook Paris Campbell either. I like Paris Campbell. He's a guy that could end up being a late round pick for you that also helps take you to the promised land this year. And there you go. There you have it, Headliner Nation. My training camp breakdown for today. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments below. More importantly, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. And as always, hit that like button if you enjoy the content and appreciate it. And get your draft guide. If you're still got a draft coming up, thefantasyheadliners.com, you can get our draft guide for $19.99, over 600 pages of information and exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. Have a good one, Headliner Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next episode.